If you enjoy Draw and Paint What You Regret on YouTube and would like to show your support, you can find Cash App and Venmo information below. By all means, this channel is free to watch and learn from. Enjoy! Hey everyone, I am back with another video. So this tutorial, or at least demo, is for my Abstract Drawing 2 class. So if you've been watching my Abstract Drawing 1 series, you definitely do know that I did allude, or at least did say, that I'm going to have an Abstract Drawing 2 class coming soon. So the class made at CAC, so if you're interested in that class, definitely check out Creative Arts Center of Dallas. But the class actually made, and this is our first assignment, so I definitely want to talk a bit about our first assignment. There is a lot of moving parts to this assignment, and I really do think it's a bit overwhelming for students, so hopefully this video definitely does help with just organizing what all that they need to do when it comes to this project. So my students definitely do know if they're nailing 1 to 2 to 3 things, I'm happy with that. But let's get started on a bit of the intro. So this may be a bit of a long intro. I'm gonna do my best to get through it as fast as possible. So when it comes to our project 1, keep in mind these students have 4 projects in this class, so we have about 2 days to work on project 1. And when I mean 2 days, it's really 2 weeks. But that's just kind of how the sessions work at CAC. So to start with, I want to talk about at least a little bit about abstract art and our non-objective art. So my students have the option. They have the option to do non-objective portrait or an abstract portrait. So in my project, I decided to choose abstract portrait. Once again, you may say, and I have talked to my students about this, how do I do a non-objective portrait? There's plenty of artists out there that deals with non-objective portraits. Granted, when we look at it, we probably won't understand that it's a portrait unless it was told to us as the viewer, or told to the viewer. But you definitely can think of shapes and lines, possibly forms or colors that at least give us the allude of an idea of what we could be possibly looking at. So once again, I decided to do abstract art, as well as I did give my students a theme. So their theme, or not really a theme, they're going to do portraits. But this also give them an idea of what they are focusing on, what they need to render out in our draw, whether it's non-objective or abstract. And also I gave them the element of line, shape, and form. They can choose if they just want to deal with line, they could choose if they just want to deal with shape, or they could just choose if they want to deal with form, or all 3. Also, I gave them the principle of balance, pattern, and scale. So once again, it's their choice if they want to deal with just one or the other, or all 3. And then something that is new, because we're in abstract drawing 2, what we didn't do in abstract drawing 1 was we did not deal with the element of color. So abstract drawing 2 is a whole session of dealing with color. So I'm introducing color schemes to my students. So I gave them the option to use either analogous, complementary, or monochromatic. So when we are thinking about analogous colors are pretty much colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel. So that can be yellow, orange, red, orange. Those are within analogous family. So you're just kind of keeping all colors in the same family. There's a harmony that happens with that as well. You could definitely do a color scheme with that, as well as complementary colors. Another interesting scheme, but complementary colors are colors that are on the opposite ends of the color wheel, like yellow and purple, as well as another example, blue and also orange. They're on the other side they're both colors on the opposite ends of the color wheel, so it's a contrast. In color schemes, it's a beautiful or very interesting way to compose with that contrast. Monochromatic is probably the easiest color scheme because of the fact that it just deals with one color and you shift in that color in its tints, which is white, or you are shifting that color in its shade, which is black. Can you shift it to another color family, which is analogous? Yes. Can you shift it in its grays, meaning you're adding gray to the color to tone it out? Yes, you can definitely do that. So another thing that is fairly new to these students, not only color but mixed media. So this is a mixed media project, and I am giving them two methods of doing mixed media. I basically went over in class the layering method. So the layering method, and this is just my definition, you definitely want to make sure you understand the properties of whatever materials you are using. So in this composition, I'm going to use 3 different types of materials. So I'm going to use color pencils, I'm also going to use watercolor markers, and I'm going to use acrylic markers. So you want to make sure you understand how you are layering your materials, so you need to know the properties of your materials. So watercolors is more transparent, so I can come in with a base layer of what I want to do with my watercolors. And then if I want to use acrylic, I can use my acrylic markers for more opaque layers, and then I can use color pencils for more detailed layers, and just make sure my color pencils are the last layer. And the reason why I'm saying that is because color pencils are more wax based. When you think about acrylic and you think about watercolors, acrylic is basically, you know, we all know, like, acrylic is just plastic. So you want to make sure if you're going to come in that heavy opaque layer, it's either the last or second to the last. Wax based color pencil, you definitely want that to be last because it has the wax involved with its make. And then watercolors is just that, it's pigment and some type of binder, and it could become Arabic for the binder. It's a lot of things that can be within honey. It's a lot of different things that can be in for the binder for watercolor. So if you're gonna come in with a layering, I always tell students, make sure you understand the properties of the materials you're using before you start to layer them, and know where you want to put them and how you're going to layer them. And then you have using different medias in groups. So using different medias in groups is probably the easiest, because you don't really have to worry about how you're going to mix the media together. You're just taking, let's say, this portion of this composition, I'm going to use color pencils. This portion of the composition, I'm going to use acrylic markers. This portion of the composition, I'm going to use my watercolor markers, so on and so forth. So you're assigning a group of lines or shapes, forms, whatever's in your composition, and you assign a media to it. So that gives you an idea of using different mediums in a group. And on top of that, just to talk a bit about my portrait, I decided, because I wanted a more abstract portrait. I know, because I'm really a representational artist, I deal with a lot of realism. So drawing abstract, I'm gonna be honest, it's a bit more of a challenge for me, because I always try to strive for rendering what I'm seeing. So this is allowing me to be a lot looser than what I'm comfortable with, and I'm happy with that. Like, I'm a-okay with that. So I decided for my portrait, because I wanted to be really loose and abstract, I decided to do blind contour and contour portrait. So as you can see, these two compositions are both a blind contour. This is a blind contour that is a mix of blind contour and contour, just being honest, but this is definitely blind contour. I didn't really like what happened with this blind contour, so I just kind of left it alone. This is probably not the composition that I'm going to do. And then this one I actually don't mind. This is a blind contour with a little bit of contour, because I was looking, but both of them I did use one continuous line. So I did not lift my pen or my pencil, I just used one continuous line. This is the composition that I am going to do my best to go for, and this is just a regular contour drawing. So contour drawings, traditionally you have one continuous line and you cannot lift your pen or your pencil. If you're doing a blind contour, that means you can't even see like your paper or your hand. You just have to follow along with the form that you're seeing or drawing. So this, when it comes to contour drawings, you can actually see your pencil, your hand, and your paper, and so on and so forth, as well as continue to use that one continuous line. So I wanted to go with that one. Another thing when it comes to this, I know you guys are like, what's going on this side? This is just a little handout that because there's a lot of stuff that I go over in my lecture, I always give my student a handout where I'm just pulling out important things from my lecture that they need to use as just little notes. So this is the project. This is actually the different types of mixed media that I am pretty much teaching them, as well as the one thing that I'm just going to quickly and briefly go over. I did not go over this in class in my lecture. These images I believe you can find on Pinterest, but I wanted to talk to my students about color and emotions that viewers get from colors, as well as the energy that color that comes across with color. So if we're looking at these, if you're trying to design a color scheme, or if you're trying to decide what you want to do when it comes to color and what you want it to represent in your composition, it's always good to kind of get an idea of what colors can do when it comes to symbolism. So if we think about colors, colors can give different emotions. Like I always tell my students that I love yellow because of the fact that I do get a sense of joy when I see anything that's yellow. So compositions that deals with the different variations of yellow just makes me very happy. That is one of those things that you may want to think about if you're like, okay, I'm going to use a bunch of colors, but I also need to have an idea of why I'm using these colors, right? And another thing, if we think about red, we're supposed to think of sin, evil, or anger. That I'm not 100% sure, but some people may get that when they see red. And it is kind of used in that way when you think about it, if it is used for that reason. I'm just going to quickly go over just a little bit about color and energy. So I love this whole idea about color and energy because you don't really think about kind of the energy that it produces when you're looking at it, or even what the energy from the emotion that you're feeling, if that is the case. So I'm just kind of briefly giving my ideas when it comes to energy and color. But I love the fact that if you think about color like blue, it gives you peace, hope, healing, patience, truth, and that's the energy that you begin to feel. I'm assuming when you are seeing this color, or the energy that this color is provoking, it could be that. So I love the idea of color and energy, and how your viewer can associate color with what you are doing in your work. So I just wanted to briefly talk about that. So enough on this. Another thing is I want to talk about just the project in general, and hopefully I'm getting this in the frame properly. I want to talk about the project in general. So students have to choose an actual color scheme. So I decided to choose analogous, and when it comes to analogous, I decided to go on the cooler side of the color wheel for analogous, and use, you know, the red purples or red violets all the way down to some of the blue violets. So I'm more in that area of the color wheel when it comes to using analogous colors. I definitely wanted to do that because I think I've never really played with those colors much when I deal with any type of analogous colors. So I just kind of wanted to have fun with that. So my students are supposed to do two colored thumbnails. I have them do two, but I also want them to work on the paper. So this paper that I'm working on is watercolor paper because I'm using watercolor markers, I decided to go with watercolor paper. I didn't come in and dilute any of my pigment in watercolor. I can if I want to, but I didn't do that. So I think using mixed media might be fine. This is 140 pounds and this is a cheaper watercolor paper, and I think that's another reason why I went with it. And the texture is a little bit more smooth, but it's still cold pressed. So what I did is I went through my watercolor marker set, which is here, and I tried to pull out as many of those analogous colors that leans on the red, purple, blue, purple side. And then my acrylic markers, I put out, once again, those colors that leans towards the red, purple, blue, purple side. Same thing with my color pencils, because I know I'm using these three different mediums or media. And I just want to make sure I swatch them and I have an idea of what I am doing and what it looks like. So from there, I ended up just using my drawing skills, but one thing I am allowing my students to do once they get their thumbnail done, I pretty much have them copy it on a copy machine, and then we're just gonna blow up the image. That way they can trace or just trace the drawing over on their watercolor paper or mixed media paper. I decided to just use my drawing skills, and also when I do the demo, I'm probably just going to use my drawing skills because in my art studio I do not have a printer, so I'm just gonna have to rely on what I have as far as my drawing skills in general. So I did a very quick color thumbnail, and once again my students should do 2, just so they can explore their ideas. And really you're supposed to do more than just 2 and more than just 3 thumbnails, so on and so forth, because you want to exhaust your ideas. So I did just 1 color thumbnail. Granted, I feel like there's more that I can do to it, but I think for what it's worth, it's given me a more abstract feel, and it leans more towards the illustration side. But I could tweak it a little bit more to make it a little bit more abstract, but it gives you an idea of a portrait that's on the abstract side. I don't think it's 100% on the abstract side. I could play with it a little bit more, but I don't know how far I'm going to be able to push it under the circumstances that this is just a demo. But this gives you an idea of what my students are doing when it comes to day 1 of their project. So you guys, thank you for hanging in there for 17 minutes of this intro. I am gonna definitely do my demo on a next clip, and just real quick, that way you can see some of my materials that I am using. These are my watercolor markers, my Prismacolor pencils, as well as these are my Art X acrylic markers, so hopefully you guys can see that. And I am using a very cheap watercolor paper, and this is the watercolor paper that I'm using. And honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I think I got that from Five Below, but it'll work for this demo. So you guys, thank you so much. I will see you in the next clip where I'm doing the demo. And welcome to Abstract Drawing 2 Project 1. Bye guys. Hey everyone, so I'm just popping in on this demo portion of the video, and I just want to talk a bit about what I'm doing. So I decided to do a contour drawing of this bust. I actually inserted the photo of the bust. So I'm using a 1 continuous line to get down the drawing. So typically contour drawings, if I slow down, or if any artist slow down enough, you can get a really good drawing out of a contour drawing. But obviously I'm moving a bit fast, but I'm moving fast because I still want the drawing to look a little bit more abstract. So I decided to put the actual image up so students have an idea of what I was drawing. I was actually drawing from life, and I just wanted students to know that. Another thing I wanted to just quickly and briefly talk about is by all means, you guys, when it comes to this portrait, I do feel like it leans a little bit more towards the illustration side and not so much abstract. And the reason why I'm sharing this or even saying this, probably just to get, probably just a vent. It's probably the vent, you guys. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I felt like I could have distorted a lot more things to make it look a little bit more abstract. Illustration is like kind of the bridge between abstraction and realism in so many ways. So it's just kind of like I could have did a little bit more distortions when it comes to this portrait, and just challenged myself just a little bit more. And that's the one thing that I am not a fan of when it comes to this demo. I definitely do know as a teacher, I literally did everything that I'm asking my students to do. I decided or chose to do abstract art. I also, of course, I'm doing a portrait, as well as I'm using my elements of art of line, shape, and form. And also, when we think about my principles of design, balance, I'm using that in my composition. Not so much scale. I could have played with scale a little bit more in this composition. By all means, I know there was another principle that I'm drawing a blank on. But if anything, I did focus a lot more on balance than anything. Also, when it comes to my actual color scheme, I chose analogous colors. Overall composition is balanced, is symmetrical. So I did pretty much everything that I was asking my students to do, but for me, I just feel like I could have pushed making this drawing a little bit more abstract and less um, illustration, less leaning towards the illustration side. So, that being said, I know I'm just going on a tangent and talking. I'm going to let you guys just enjoy the process. When it comes to my mixed media process, once again, I decided to use the layering mixed media. So, I came in with a base with my watercolors, came in with using my markers, my acrylic markers on top of that. And then I came in with my color pencils on top of all of that. So I probably used my color pencils a bit more sparingly. And then I used my watercolors and also my acrylics at the most. So enough of me blabbling and talking for no reason. I'll see you guys in the next video. Please enjoy and thank you for watching. If you like it, like it. If you subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye.